Welcome to the Marriage Puzzle Podcast. I'm Thomas.
I'm Julie.
And today we're going to be talking about your finances and why managing in a certain way could be impacting your marriage.
Yeah, if it's still a my money or your money situation going on with married couples, then you're definitely creating a wedge between your spouse.
Yeah, because oftentimes one spouse makes more money than the other, and that can be especially true if one of you is a stay-at-home parent.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that creates a massive imbalance of who's bringing in actual money. But don't take for granted that stay-at-home parent brings a lot of value to the home that isn't really measurable monetarily, so to speak.
But even if both spouses are working or they don't have kids yet, then chances are they're making different amounts of money. I don't think that's going to be perfectly equal, this 50-50 split. So that's what we're going to navigate on today's episode.
Yeah, so let's try to paint a little bit of picture here. So let's say, you're managing your money from a perspective of, hey, we're going to take these bills, we're going to split them proportionately, and, because you make more, you'll pick up more of the tab, I make less, I'll pick up less of the tab, or, proportionate to what I make. And so let's say we're doing it that way. And I'm driving along and my car breaks down. But I don't have enough money to fix it because I didn't have enough budgeted in to my side for car repairs or whatever. Like, that's a whole different episode talking about how to budget and things like that. But if that happens, then what? So I reach out to you and say, hey, can I borrow some of your money to help me fix my car?
I would say, no, it's your car.
Guess you're walking.
But, that sounds so silly because we don't have that mindset in our marriage. It was like the wedding day happened and we combined our money.
Yeah.
So it is not even his car and her car. It's our cars.
Right.
And your income, my income, it's our income. It's our bills. So it'd be our car repair to deal with.
Yeah, and I mean, even down to the fact that we don't just call them my car and your car. We label it, the van and the car when we're driving somewhere. Are we taking the van or are we taking the car?
We have the kids' car, the family car.
Right, yeah. So, I mean...
But a lot of couples do just naturally have, a his and her car, and that's fine.
There's nothing wrong with necessarily saying it. I'm just saying it changed. Our verbiage is different, but it's not a big deal. So.
Yeah, but so many couples still are operating out of my checking account. Maybe their bank accounts are even at different banks.
Right.
And so, one, combine your money, and two, you have to lay that down of just thinking this is my income and your income, or I make more, so I deserve more shopping sprees or whatever, this justification.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing as we are one.
Yeah.
The day we got married, and so all of this is to do together.
And don't get us wrong. We understand that, before you're married and when you have separate bank accounts before you're married, that there's a little bit of brain damage involved in combining your accounts into one. Having to just go to your employer and say, hey, can you change my direct deposit over into this new account? That's enough alone that can deter some people, and unfortunately, you just kind of have to rip the Band-Aid off and do it. It's really no worse than if you get fraud on your credit card or your debit card and you have to change all of your auto pays over. It's no worse than that. You just have to, make the choice and go do it so that you can combine this. So just don't let that be an excuse of why you haven't done it. It's not that difficult to work through. It takes a little bit of time, but really no more than that. But let's kind of get back to that example for a minute.
Yeah.
And, my car broke down. And so you let me borrow some money to fix it. What happens then? Do I then have to pay you back in this scenario? I mean, I'm asking a little bit facetiously because we've never done it this way, but
Right.
I'm trying to think of how it would work, because in a scenario like this where you're keeping your money separate, there is a little bit of a roommate type of feel.
For
And
sure.
so if you're just kind of living with someone, you're like, hey, can I borrow some money to fix my car? You're going to have to pay that person back. It can be a little different when you're married. I understand that. I'm not totally naive to that. But do you have to pay them back? What if you can't pay them back? That changes things, right? I mean, and at what point do you go from like husband and wife to like having a debt collector be the one that you're married to?
Right. Which Proverbs 22:7 says, "The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is the slave of the lender."
Yeah.
So that doesn't sound like a healthy marriage.
No, definitely not. Because for multiple reasons. Because even if, let's keep this example going. If you let me borrow some money to fix my car, and you don't look at it as a loan, just because you're a nice, loving, kind spouse, and you're just like, yeah, here, you can have this money. There's still going to be this psychological sense of like, I owe you. That's just a natural thing, I think, in human beings. Like, if someone gives you something, you naturally feel like you have to either give them something back or do that for someone else. Has anyone ever been in a drive-through line when the person in front of you pays for your food? You have this feeling of obligation to keep it going. And I think that that's a similar situation in this example, where even if you're like, hey, it's not a big deal, we're married, like that's how it's supposed to work, there's going to be this sense of, yeah, but I don't want to owe you. I don't want to have that hanging over us. So I'm going to be, even if I can't literally afford it, paying it back in cash, I'm going to be trying to figure out how I can make it up to you intangibly. And that's not healthy either, because now I'm keeping score and you're not keeping score, but I feel like you are, and now it's just creating this unnecessary tension that all could have been resolved by having all the money in the same spot and not borrowing. Because in this scenario, when you come together, when the car breaks down, notice my verbiage changed from my car to the car.
Right.
When the car breaks down, you then sit down at the table with your spouse when your money's combined and say, okay, the car broke down, it's going to cost this much to fix it. How are we going to rearrange our finances this month or over the next few months to compensate for that? What are we going to do differently to make sure that we can cash flow this? Or how are we going to handle this situation? It goes from becoming all of a problem on one spouse to both of you bearing the burden together.
And another point of when people don't combine their finances, and let's say they had the two bank accounts, even at two different banks, even if you're not doing it now, it can create temptation to start hiding spending or money, income, whatever, from your spouse.
Right.
And so I even heard a guy on YouTube just this week saying, like, oh yeah, like the money in our checking account is our money, for him and his wife, but if I pay for someone's lunch and then out of our checking account and then they Venmo me money, that's my money now, right? And it was just his opening talk. But it's just, even if you are like, no, we have a healthy marriage, we're able to overcome the temptation and manage our finances separately. There might come a day that then you're tempted to spend or keep money that should be ours.
Yeah. Oh man, that's an interesting trick. Don't do that.
I know.
That's dirty.
It was a funny opening to his
That's a
money
dirty
talk.
trick. Yeah, I think that's a big problem, because hiding money or hiding your spending or just having the ability to do so is just going to be a gateway to bigger problems coming into your marriage. And I mean, it can start with simple things like, oh, we have this coffee budget, but that person Venmo me back, so I can just Venmo someone else that money before before moving into my account, I'll just have my Venmo account that I can Venmo other people. Like, hey, will you buy my coffee? I'll Venmo you the money. Like, and like little things like that then lead to bigger things, and suddenly you've got a boat that your spouse doesn't know about. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but I mean, you get my point. Like, is it can turn into bigger things, or hey, I'm going on this golf trip with the guys, and then we're spiraling down a different set of circumstances here, but it does become a gateway to potential bigger problems coming into your marriage.
And temptation that you just don't need to tread water in. And so combining your finances forces you to visualize your life as one.
Right.
Rather than the two roommates that you said, just trying to survive, and you might as well be roommates.
Yeah. I mean, if you're roommates, you don't really have to talk unless there's, a problem like that. And so if you do combine your money together, it's going to force you to communicate as though all of it is your money together. It changes to we have an income. Yeah. And so, when you get married, two become one, including your money. So when you combine your finances, it does change that and takes you from that tension of who's earning more and who's doing better, and is the stay-at-home parent more or less valuable than the one who's going to work? Because again, you can't really put a tangible value on that. You can get close with the cost of childcare and things like that, but even still, it's not going to be perfect, because there are other things that you're saving money on, like keeping the house clean and in order, and cooking the dinner before the other person gets home. I mean, let's talk about our marriage exactly for a second. You have a job where you're bringing home an income, and we just made the decision recently that I would leave my job because essentially the amount that I was earning was the same cost as what we were paying in childcare and tuition for school and things like that. So we've just started this transition to me being at home with the kids and homeschooling more. Yeah. And so we are in that exact scenario right now. So we're not just kind of speaking from nowhere. We're literally living this right now as we speak. And it's not the first time we've walked through this.
No.
We've done this a couple different times throughout our marriage, back and forth, different positions and so on.
Yeah, I've stayed home in a season when you went to work, and so we're not, if you're like, oh, that's for the female to stay home and the male to work, like,
not true.
An example of, but the point is back to the combining finances, like, money, our schedules, our kids' upbringing, schooling them, is like, we're in this together. Yeah. We're one team, so we have to figure out our strengths and then infuse that into our family for everyone to thrive. And so when you get that mindset, then it takes that power imbalance out.
Right.
So it's not that one person's the breadwinner, so they're going to make all the financial decisions, and the other person, let's just say the stay-at-home person, is not able to speak into that. Like, that's not a healthy marriage. So like I said, a mindset will tear down those walls and the power imbalance of money.
And even it will change it from, like, let's say, you do have a pretty good communication about it. If your money's split and you do have a pretty good communication about it, even if you're not setting up where, hey, one person has all the financial decisions, in a situation like ours, let's take that as an example, you don't have all the financial decisions, and you also don't have the final say. Mm-hmm. That, I think, is another dividing line that can come in, is like, we can talk about it 50-50, but then people might be like, well, I make more, so I get the final say, my way or the highway. And I mean, then it kind of turns into like a business relationship. I mean, if you own a business with someone who owns a bigger percentage, even if it's like, hey, we're going to treat this the same, like it's 50-50, that's not really true, because when push comes to shove, if they want their way and they own a bigger percentage, they're getting their way, and there's
Right.
nothing you can do about it. And it can become a similar scenario. So you really have to change into that our money mindset, like everything is in the same pool, same pot, and you're looking at it all together and how to divvy it up together. You really have to lay down the value of what you're, the monetary amount of what you're bringing in to a certain extent. Obviously, you have to maintain your value in, your work and so on to be able to push forward and retain your worth at your job. And, also from the stay-at-home side, if I'm staying at home but I'm not schooling the kids and I'm not taking care of keeping the house up and going and getting the groceries, if I'm not doing my part at home, that's also unfair. Like, I'm not earning my value, so to speak, of what I could be bringing in income. That's not fair to you if I have this certain expectation that I need to be keeping up with on my end as well. And we have to just really lay that down and put the our money mindset on.
Yeah, and what you get to contribute to the family, or if you don't have kids, what you get to contribute to this marriage and this partnership and relationship, whether that's monetary or skills or availability or whatever.
Right.
We're in this together. But around money, let's talk about a spender versus a saver.
Yeah.
And your thoughts on that.
Yeah, this is one thing in our notes that I love talking about, because it's really true. Oftentimes in a marriage, there's a spender and a saver. Usually, they marry each other. That's usually the case. Obviously, there's anomalies where, both people are spenders and both people are savers, and that can create its own set of circumstances that you have to work through.
And I think when someone's, like, saving is hard and spending
Spending is hard.
I'm just trying to think of, like, the neutral
right.
American couple.
Yeah.
Like, they might think that they're both spenders because it might be more fun to spend. But deep down, somebody, like, will just speak, you are the saver because you can think more long term and that it's worth saving for a future or a bigger vacation or opportunity. And I'm a more natural spender because coffee is calling my name.
I was going to say, which is why you'd freely give me the money to fix my car if it broke down, but I'd be like, no, I just got to let it sit there broken until I can save up enough money.
Yeah.
And so what you have to understand is, if your marriage is like ours, in which one of you is a spender and one of you is a saver, then oftentimes we can look at that as a problem that we have to solve, versus flip the mindset on it and realize that it's a blessing that you get to design your financial situation around. Because the beauty of this is the saver is going to be the one who makes sure the spender doesn't go broke, because you're saving for those future things. You're putting money aside in retirement. You're saving up for the car to break down so that when it happens, you don't have to worry about it. And when I say you're saving up, I don't mean in the split sense, but I'll elaborate in a second. But the spender, on the other hand, is going to make sure that the saver has fun now in this life, which, by the way, it's the only one you've got. So they're going to make sure that you have fun with that money that you're working so hard to earn now. Now, when you combine those two together and you come together with this balance of, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and set some money aside for car repairs so that when something happens, not if, when something happens, we can just pay for it, versus you being the spender wanting to be like, oh, sweet, I'm going to buy clothes this week, and then me calling you and saying, hey, guess what? Car broke down, and now there's this tension of like, now you're frustrated at me for some reason that the car broke down because now you can't go buy the clothes that you had your mind set on to spend, versus if you come together on the front end of it and decide together, like, cool, we can take care of both of these problems because we've got a clothing budget,
right,
and we got money saved up and set aside for the purpose of when a car breaks down. When you can utilize these strengths together, you're going to really just win at finances and win at your marriage, because finance is a really big issue in a lot of marriages, just because oftentimes people aren't taught how to manage it. Or, I mean, think about how many kids grew up in a divorced home and you saw bad examples of money management, or you then lived with a single parent who just couldn't do everything that a two-income household could do, or, one income, one stay-at-home parent. Now the single parent is having to do both things, bring in the income and be the stay-at-home parent to help with the homework and cook and clean and do all the stuff at home. And so if you've been raised around poor examples of managing money, then it makes it even harder. So you have to come together with your spouse and figure it out and work together through it.
So if I could sum up this episode in 2 words about money: combined and communicate.
Okay.
Because the saver spender may not be new, that people have heard of that before, but it was a problem in our marriage early on. We could identify, you're the saver, I'm the spender. Without that communication, I didn't understand why you were saving, so it felt controlling. And it did feel a little bit of that power that you were and your heart wasn't to control that, because we had combined and we were in it together. But I think we're going to get to practical tips, because we early on didn't do money talks or budgeting together. So when you would say no to the outfit that I thought I needed, it was frustrating.
Yeah.
And now that we communicate about it, I see the big picture and I understand, and our goals are aligning.
Yeah, because in that scenario, it takes you right back to, childhood, when you're like, hey, Mom, Dad, can you buy me this? And they said no.
Yeah.
They didn't give you an explanation. They just said no. So communication is the key. And, the practical tips that we have for you, these are not earth-shattering things, but number 1, have a budget meeting. Have your first budget meeting if you've never done it. Well, before that, go combine your finances.
Right.
I mean, I think that if you truly believe that your spouse is the one and only and you're going to be with them forever, then combining your money should not be an issue. Take the time and do it. Stop, using time as an excuse. I don't have time to go. Take a day off. Figure it out. It's a terrible excuse. If you truly believe that. If you don't truly believe that, then your marriage was off to the wrong foot at the start.
Yeah, I was going to say, honestly, if they are separate bank accounts, it's too easy to leave. And you're committed to this, so you're already like halfway in and out.
Yeah. So, combine your money and then have that first budget meeting, or schedule a meeting every month. And
with that, schedule it. Yes. So that's what I said. We didn't always do it together. So you were great on top of it, probably having your own budget meetings and watching it and balancing it. It was including me on that and scheduling it. It's on the calendar. So it wasn't a surprise to be like, hey, we need to talk about money. I'm like, well, I don't want to talk about money.
Right.
We scheduled it. So, we do it monthly, but whatever your rhythm is, to get on the same page. And so now I know I'm going to show up and be ready to talk about money, good or bad. And that was a huge communication piece for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And so have your monthly budget meeting, and it needs to include 2 things. It needs to include planning for the upcoming month and discussing what happened in the month you just ended, because those are 2 very important parts. You have to look back at what happened to be able to plan going forward, because if you were way off and you just never look back and you just keep planning, you're going to just have problems in the future. You have to look back, analyze the data, and move forward. And then the second tip that we have for you is, once you start doing budgeting, you can't just do it for 1 month and be like, that didn't work. you have to give yourself at least 3 months of working it, making tweaks, consistently showing up at the budget meetings to make sure that you can get it working and that it becomes a routine and a habit. And I mean, we've talked a lot in recent episodes that, we have this weekly marriage check-in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a portion of that marriage check-in is, it's not a full budget meeting, but it's like a budget check-in. Hey, what's coming up, what's happening, where are we at? Just, it can be a quick overview. So you can do that every week, but you need to have a full planning session and look back session once per month to really dive in deep and figure out what you're going to do and, resolve certain issues with your budget and tweak it and move forward. Trust me, after about 3 months of consistently doing it, 3 months in a row of consistently doing it, you're going to start feeling pretty good about where your budget is at, how you're managing your money. Your spending is going to be a little more under control, and your marriage is going to feel a lot better because you're actually communicating about this piece versus having that like parent-child relationship, that permission, and it's just going to be a lot better for sure.
And I have one more I want to squeeze in before you close out. If your budget allows, if there's room with the income you're bringing in for your family, put in fun money.
Mm-hmm.
That helps the spender saver. It's our money. The whole budget is our money. But if your budget allows, then you can have, like we have Thomas's fun money and Julie's fun money on a monthly basis. Because then I know my parameters of what I'm quote-unquote allowed to spend in and not justify.
Right.
So if I do want that new outfit or the coffee budget, or, I've heard another couple that she spent all her fun money on hair and he spent all his fun money on golf. But that worked within their budget.
Yeah.
And, even if you make it a rollover budget where the saver can save up every month and then get a bigger item, whatever, but I just wanted to add that in of, if your budget allows, you're still allowed to have his and her fun money within the family budget that's planned.
Yeah, and I'll add even a little more to what you added.
Okay.
A little more practicality around that, because if you keep that in your budget and you don't take it out of that account, that's going to create some issues of like misspending, or you do have that car trouble that you've got to just pay for, and then that that gets taken away without anybody knowing, and cash flow issues can arise around that. So practically, I know we're saying combine everything into accounts and things like that, but go create a couple of savings accounts that are attached to your main checking account, all under the same login, so nothing can be hidden anywhere, things like that. And, create one separate account that's for each of you, and you transfer that budgeted fund money over into those each month so that someone can save. Then when you spend, you just move it back and cover the spending. And that, I think, is a smart way to do it, because then you've still got that money set aside. In the event that something even bigger does come up, you can come back to the table and be like, hey, you know what? I think we both need to just, lose our fund money that we've saved up. We've got to pay for this bigger issue that came up. It stinks, but it allows you to come together and say, yeah, I'm willing to contribute to help fix this problem that is affecting both of us. And I think that done the right way, it makes it a lot, more freeing to say, hey, yeah, I've got this money that I'm allowed to spend, and I can also save it up, but it's also kind of set aside separately as like an extra emergency fund.
Yeah.
Like you can then choose like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna put this back in because we gotta resolve this problem. Whatever I was saving up for myself to do myself, I can forgo a few weeks of golf to put this back in, get that tire fixed, get us back on the road. Let's just do that. So I would make sure that you're doing that, because if you keep it all in the same checking account and you just have it listed on a spreadsheet, when money's just sitting there, it just gets spent and you don't know what happened to it. So make sure that you're literally setting it aside so that you can have that little bit of freedom, but predetermined and pre-agreed upon amounts of freedom on what to go spend.
Exactly.
And I think that's a huge key, and it's going to force that communication on the front end.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here. This was a fun episode to discuss, and we hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you follow us on the podcast and share this with someone who might need to hear this message. That would be great. And might even be your spouse.
Share it
so
with your spouse.
send it to them. All of our places you can follow us are going to be linked down in the description. And we look forward to seeing you next week. We're together. We'll work on marriage one puzzle piece at a time.